Hey everybody, it's Gypsy. So in my last video, I talked about how, I was getting ready to go to Europe. I think I'm going to move this just a little bit because of the sun glare. There we go. Anyways, but my mother wasn't doing well. So what happened was my son and daughter-in-law were scheduled to go ahead of us by a couple of weeks, and they did. Right after that, we found out my mother was in the active dying process. I was scheduled to leave December 11th. My mother ended up dying last week on December 8th. So my son's father, he left on December 11th, like we were scheduled to. Her funeral was December 11th too, so it would have been too much for me to go, it's way too much. I have chosen to stay home for the moment. There is a chance I might go later because we were scheduled to be there for a significant amount of time. However, at this moment in time right now, I just kind of feel like hanging out with my brother and sister, which I think makes sense because now we have no parents left. My dad died almost 27 years ago. Or is it 27 years? Yeah, it's 27 years. He died in 1996. So it's a huge adjustment for my siblings and I. So I need the quiet time. And it's more complicated than that for me. Spiritually, especially. When I lived down the road by myself, especially when I was in the desert, I spent a lot of time alone in the desert. I knew then who I truly am. I had no doubt who I was, how I felt about things, and we're constantly growing, and if you're not, you need to question that. So we're constantly growing and changing. I came back into what I consider society, typical society, this past March because of the accident I had in New Mexico. I would not be able to take care of myself for a significant amount of time. And although I can take care of myself now, there are still a lot of things I cannot do, especially in regards to the lifestyle I previously led, which was off-grid, no water, etc. It was a very physical lifestyle, and you had to be, fairly strong. I came back here to Northeast Ohio where I lived all my life. And since that time, I feel like I have lost myself. It's all right, let me explain it this way. Okay, our society, I think worldwide, I especially know it's so in the United States because it's where I live, we are extremely divided. You are either in this camp or you're in this camp. There's no other camp to be in, and there's nothing in between. Pick a side. I have never been that type of person because I'm usually in the middle. Say two people have a fight, they have an argument. I can see both sides. I can't pick just one side because I can see both sides. I'm like that with everything. So I am actually in the middle of both extremes. It has always been my advice that if you find yourself totally, everything about one side, you are totally in agreement, you never ever disagree, you're very stubborn in those beliefs, you ought to start questioning yourself, whether or not you are thinking for yourself. I'm a big believer in that. So I have trouble picking one side or the other. So let me begin by, because I am a very spiritual person, the one side believes I'm in agreement with everything that goes on this planet. I'm not. I'd like to say I'm in agreement with our spiritual evolution and getting there at some point. But I know you cannot get there all at once and force everyone to do these things. It is wrong. And it'll never get done that way. So on the flip side, because I was brought up in a fairly old-fashioned family, I still hold those values, which are good values, in my opinion. So there are things that don't, in other people's thought process or their opinions, do not match up with me being a spiritual being, with me being very, we're all spiritual beings, being very spiritual. That being said, I feel like I have lost myself and I feel like I'm drowning. I don't know who I am anymore. I'm grieving the loss of my mother. My son died 9.5 years ago, and I'm still grieving his loss. I think as a parent that goes on. You always grieve for the rest of your life. But with a child, it's more pronounced, even in the long run. But when I was in the desert, it was easier to think for myself, because although I would, listen to other people's opinions via the internet, and they weren't people I love, people I'm close to. So since I have been back in my hometown, I've been pulled way too much in one direction or the other, to the point where I've lost my reasoning abilities. So I need this time alone to get back to myself. I need to find myself again, and I need to be able to go back to standing strong in who I am. 2023 has been a very, very difficult year for me. It started out, last Christmas, I lived in New Mexico, and last Christmas I came back to Northeast Ohio to spend the holidays with my family. I promised my mother that I would, so I did. And then I was here about 2 weeks, and I returned back to New Mexico on January 1st. On January 31st, I took a very bad fall, and I shattered my tibia and fractured my tibia plateau. I had to have emergency surgery. The doctor said he was pulling out shards of bone. He had to glue the tibia back together, after which he put a plate on. I had a very long recovery. I am still recovering. I now walk with a cane. I originally started out in a wheelchair. For a very long time, I was in a wheelchair too long. But it started out, my year started out with that. And, 2023 has now ended with my mother dying. So it's been a very strange year for me. And I just need to sit quietly and reassess who I am, what I believe. I need to find myself again. I need to return back to me. And I feel a great deal of love for my family and friends. I do. But I love me more. And I have to find me again, because I need to be happy again. And if I can't find me, if I don't know who I am, I can't possibly be happy. So that's what I'm working on now. Unfortunately, there will be no videos of travel at the moment because, well, I guess my mother timed it well because I remember I told my family, I'm worried about going to Europe because I'm worried about my mother. And I did not want her to die while I was gone. I think it would have been harder to handle. So she chose a few days before to die. Anyways, that's what I'm doing. I'm just sitting here trying to process, like my siblings are, that we are now the oldest generation in the family. Not only are we the oldest, I am the oldest. And although I have no fear of death, it's a weird thing to I never thought the day would come that I would be the oldest. I mean, common sense wise, yes, but you don't ever think it's going to get here. So it's here. And I'm processing that, processing my mother not being here physically, changes dynamics. And so I'm doing that. Plus, I'm trying to get my business started, which is not as easy as you think. It's a resale women's boutique where I sell, women's accessories, and I sell essential oils, and I will be adding to that section where I will be having soaps and body mist, anything for women. Because I've always loved that kind of stuff, so I thought I would do that. So that's what I'm doing. Is the name of in case anybody's interested, the Allegheny Blackberry at thealleghenyblackberry.com. Or you can find me on Facebook under the same name. So that's what's going on. I am hoping that I can get back to my videos that were very deep. I still want to do like my homesteading stuff, but that's harder right now. But the spiritual videos, I need to get back to that so I can find myself. So hopefully I could do that. Just always remember, extremism, if you are totally not, it's the middle we got to be in so that we can make healthy decisions for ourselves. So that's where I have to get back, where I can see both sides. And believe me, there are things on both sides, and I will admit, more on one side than the other. I'm like, what the hell are you people thinking? Are you out of your minds? No, I cannot buy into that. Sorry, no. Both sides, when you have extremists, I am like that. No. But it is more one side than the other. So I'm just going to leave you with that right now. This is what's going on right now. I have a feeling there are going to be more spiritual videos coming up for me because that's who I truly am. Before I moved out west, I used to go to a spiritualist church. I have been back here since March, and at the beginning, I couldn't get there for months. I can get there now. I might start going again because I need it for me. I'm not happy anymore like I used to be. So I need to fix that. I need to work on me. So I'm going to leave you with that. Blessed be, and make it a joyful